The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So, um, so this is about what's new in Tilos 10.1, focused on the mass halls aspects in particular. As you know, my name is Richard Ormrod. I am the technical expert of Tilos in the UK, but we've got a number of people who are fairly new to mass halls. So I just wanted to very quickly run through the aspects before we talk about what's new in 10.1. So I wanted to remind everybody that in Tilos, and so this is a Tilos chart that I've prepared where I've got a number of graphs. I've got a mass hall balance area there. I've got a profile of the intended road level and the existing ground level. So green is a cut and blue is a fill. I've got this cell here that's a mass hall cell, and then I've got the time distance cell itself. So what I wanted to remind you of is that in the library part of it, under other, there are various mass hall entries, and these are the fundamental soil types that you're going to get rid of. It's either cut, fill, or you've got a disposal site or a crusher. And so as you if you select one of these, you get to choose a base type for it and different colored sections. So I don't intend to go into that too deeply, but you can have a waste, a borrow pit, a waste pile, and a stockpile. So and they go in different areas of the diagram that are predefined. So that needs to be set up in advance. And you can really only do that in Tilos. And then you've got the mass areas themselves, which you establish in Tilos either by creating them directly in here. So you can add a new mass area. So we would say that it's cut one. It's a mass type of cut. It's at 500 to 1500. So that's quite a big one. And the quantity is 15,000 cubic meters. So you create those objects that are on screen at that area there. So I can undo that because more than likely you're going to be given this as a spreadsheet. So I can copy that to the clipboard. I can go File, Import, Plain Line, which is a clipboard. I can choose a profile that's set up to match the spreadsheet, and then I can have this diagram presented on screen. Excuse me. And then it's about the halls. So then we've got to move the material from one place to another. So you can either import them in the same way that I did with the mass areas, or we can draw them. So we would say, well, I'm going to cut this section and I'm going to put it in this fill area. So you can draw that on screen. And you get little indicators to show you that I've actually cut all of the this section, and I haven't yet filled up the whole of this section. So you can do that manually. I've got one that I created previously. Well, I should say also then we can take one haul line and then we can create a cut and fill activities from it, but starting at a certain date. So then we've got the cut area, it's going to be moved to the fill area, and then that's the impact of it. And there's a logic link between the two, and that logic link has got the new synchronized duration setting that we talked of this morning. So that's the fundamentals of getting to the starting point, all of which you could do in Tilos 9.0. So here's one in true Blue Peter fashion I created previously. So that's got a number of histograms on the right hand side as well about how much we're moving every week, and then what the state of our stockpile is on the right hand side. So all of this is possible now, and so what we want to talk about are the aspects that are new to Tilos 10.1. So that's what we just said. So I thought we came in step by step. So let's look at the first one. We've got a new haulage type in the library. This is rather fundamental. So if we go to the library again, and we look at not just mass types, but we've got now we've got haul types. So in the haul types, we can define which task template we're going to use for the cut and fill sections, but also whether there's shrinkage or there's bulkage when we are moving the material, whether it is going to increase, and whether whilst we're hauling it, it's also going to get compacted by the process of hauling, and that very much depends on the material. So people would have these for different purposes. So I've got another one here called rock. So that's where I've got a different task template for the cutting the rock, but the filling is the same, and I've got different values for bulking and contractors. So when you create a line, you can define what sort of haul type it is, and it will use those shrinkage and haul and compaction factors, and so it would then calculate a more realistic value of what the haulage amount is, and of course you can set the appearance of a line style and color for that line for each of the haul types, so you get to see the visible sign of that. We talked about the percentage value of bulking and shrinking during cut, and now you can also create activities when more than one haul line is selected. So you can select one line, do Control A for all lines, right mouse click, and you would cut and fill. You would create pairs of activities for every haul in the diagram. So it's a much more productive environment rather than doing them one at a time. We just talked about that. The link between the cut and fill task can have this new synchronized duration setting, so that if the fill takes a bit longer because you're more or less productive, so if we could only do 1,000 man days, then it's going to also take that amount of time for the fill, and on a reschedule, then that's going to have that knock-on impact as well. So that's a new feature, but we did cover that this morning in a little bit more detail. We're also storing the quantity in the baseline that you make, so that you can see how the quantity might develop during the subsequent planning stages that you move through. So but now also, as the haul line knows because now we know that this is a rock cut, or it's not a rock cut, and so this one equates to this activity here. And so if I were to change that from rock to normal, I choose a different haulage type, because we know that it's got different compaction and shrinkage rate, and it's using a different task template, then that can affect the appearance on screen. So that one's just changed to a different task template. It's got different color appearance, and numeric values might also change if appropriate. So that's a useful thing to be able to do as well. When you delete a mass haul type or a haulage type from the library, you get the option to remove all of the activities associated with those aspects, and the general XML data exchange that is through file import or export, but this XML data exchange, now the Trimble Business Center and Tekla Civils, we can accept information from their calculations of the mass hauls and the haul line. So there's a deeper integration, and obviously that is the direction of travel for Tilos as a companion to Trimble Business Center, and Tekla Civils being another part of the Trimble Empire. So that's the background information on things that have changed. Things that have changed on the diagram, and I know Keith is listening and has had some of these questions already. So you can now add space between the vertical, between the zero line on the mass haul diagram. So we're looking at the mass haul diagram here. It's got its own tab on screen. So there's some new settings here. Zero line to cut spacing and zero line to fill spacing. So if we want 5% of the diagram to be an empty line, just purely for presentation purposes, or 10% on then you can achieve that very readily on screen. And some people have been keen on that aspect. So we've also now got we can control the position of the haul arrowheads and where the line goes is more responsive. So so we can, if we select a haul, then we can see that we've got the line position. That's how much from the top of the diagram. So if I said that was 80, then it would be 80% of the way from the. So if I said that was 0, it would be directly on the zero line. If I said it was minus 50, it would be in the bottom section. So you can do that graphically as well. You can pick it up and move that. And you want to do that because if they're in that position, it's not clear. And of course, it can be a complex diagram and you might need to make the scale bigger. So, but also you can determine where the arrowhead starts. If I wanted that to start only 25% in from the left-hand side, but again, and I can move that in any way, again, to ease congestion and legibility. So all of that is eminently editable, again, as a purely graphical aspect. You can filter the mass haul diagram, and you always could, but you've got more ability for filtering. So you've got to click on the mass haul diagram, and there's a filter option here. So so you can filter on particular mass types. So I only want to see cut and rock cut, for example. So it would extract only those. I want to see, I don't want that to happen, but I do want to filter on only normal haulage types and to display only those areas that those haulages are related to. So you can simplify the diagram for a particular purpose. And so I think that's, and also you can say, well, I want to see, I think this is already available in 9.0, where you could say anything where the haul quantity is not equal to the area quantity, show me those, because I might have made a mistake, for example. So so you got a lot of abilities now in the filtering that you didn't have before, and there's a new display aspect that now groups all of the mass haul types on their own line. So again, the mass haul diagram, you've got a group mass haul types on their own line. So you can see all the rock cut on one line, all of the cut and fill on separate lines, and but the height of the cut and fill areas are no longer proportional to the area quantity that's involved as they are in this section. So a much greater control and a new way of seeing it on the mass haul diagram. So they're all of the new features of mass haul in Tilos 10.1. I think there's some big